Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. And of course, I am your host, John June. And of course, gotta have my guy, Greg Penniman.
Yes, sir.
Greg, how we feeling today, bro?
We're feeling very good, very close to kickoff. Man, just feel like we're working on this overtime right now. We got the game going. We're going to be doing what we got to do here. I'm just got the lineups as well. We setting lineups as too. So yeah, we doing what we got to do to get prepared. I realize how much CD Lamb I got going tonight. So it's gonna be. Hopefully, he has a great day.
Yeah, man. CD Lamb. Your boys got a ton of it. Yeah. Some Amari Cooper, just a little bit of Amari Cooper. So
okay.
Just hoping for a big game here tonight as we record this on Thursday, September 9th, right before Thursday night football. And one thing that failed to mention yesterday, Greg did mention it as a season-long tip, but just want to make sure going forward you're taking those Thursday night players out of your flex. You're putting them into that running back, wide receiver slot so you can maintain that flexibility. But today we are breaking down 9 games. We'll break down the remaining 6 tomorrow. But we have to get to some news, Greg. And some unfortunate news. The Baltimore Ravens, during their practice today, they had back-to-back season-ending injuries, potentially season-ending injuries, presumably. Running back Gus Edwards and cornerback Marcus Peters both seem to have suffered significant knee injuries. The prognosis on Gus is that he's torn his ACL, and he will miss the 2021 NFL season. And this comes just weeks after starting running back J.K. Dobbins tears his ACL for the Baltimore Ravens. So seems like we are now going down to Tyson Williams here, who was the next man up. We obviously know the other day they signed Le'Veon Bell to their practice squad. So he's been elevated up to the active roster. And then Devontae Freeman, another veteran running back, has been added to the Baltimore Raven practice squad. Greg, where are you at with this situation? How are you approaching the Baltimore Ravens backfield now?
Yeah, first of all, hopefully Gus Edwards has a good, and Marcus Peters, both of them. Hopefully, the diagnosis isn't too horrible. Hopefully they can come back better and stronger. But that's a huge blow for them, just on both sides of the ball. Like, you have to rethink Baltimore winning this division now, probably, because they took a lot of hits offensively and not hit defensively. But fantasy related, I think I have Gus Edwards. I think automatically you should definitely benching him if you get that news that he tore his ACL. It's an automatic drop. Unless you're in a keeper league, I don't see no reason to keep him on your roster. As far as if you have Tyson Williams, I think he's an automatic plug-and play. I think at least as a RB2, a low-end RB2, just based on the offense that they're still going to be running the ball. They're hurt at receiver, so they're going to rely on the run game. They're favored to win, so they should be in a positive game script. I think this is an offense that you want to be in for a running back. So Tyson Williams is, I think, a starting RB2 at the very most at the top. And then Le'Veon Bell, I think, is a speculative lad right now out of the two, him and Devontae Freeman. So I think Le'Veon Bell's a speculative ad. And yeah, I just take it from there. Hopefully, if you had Gus Edwards and you drafting him where you wanted him, he was more of a bench running back, so it doesn't really, I don't think, hurt a lot of people. It just hurts that depth that you could have had to elevate your team to the next level.
Yeah, I think this really hurts, man, because Gus we know could be that guy. We don't know if Tyson Williams could be that guy. We've never really seen him do it. I mean, granted, he could probably be the first and second down guy. Granted, Baltimore doesn't really throw the ball to the running back all that much, but I could very well see this thing becoming a committee, man. I mean, there's nothing that separates really anyone. I mean, again, unless Tyson Williams comes out here and is that guy, and that very well could happen, and very well could be in the range of outcomes. And so kudos to those that added him and have him. I don't have any Tyson Williams anywhere because I was like, oh, what's the probability that Gus Edwards gets hurt, right? So
crazy, bro. Crazy.
So I'm going to actually look at it another way. What if Lamar just has to play hero ball now, right? What if there's less runs being called? What if there's more runs for Lamar being called? What if they decide to throw the ball more, right? And it could just kind of goes back into what they've been saying, how they want to throw the football more. They want to be a little not balanced, but they want to be a little bit more aggressive in the pass game, throw a little bit more on first down. So what if we truly see that? Not because they may necessarily want to, because they might get forced into it here.
Yeah, that definitely helps Week 1 legend Sammy Watkins for Monday night, and definitely Mark Andrews.
Sure.
Just got his fresh new deal. So I think Mark Andrews is automatic top 5 tight end play. I think top 6. So that just bumps him up more. I think his upside. And with the injuries, Marquise Brown is back in practice, so that's good. But with Bateman coming back, hopefully later in the season, Sammy Watkins has intrigue.
Yeah, definitely. Sammy Watkins, week one warrior. Sammy Watkins has some intrigue. But Greg, let's jump into these games, man. And this is our first game preview, part 1. Like we said, we're breaking down 9 games today. We're going to break down 6 tomorrow. But before we do that, Greg, why don't we tell people how they can get some extra action in on these games this week?
Oh man, you already know. But the best way they can get extra action on Week 1 Thursday night, they can start tonight if they really wanted to. Got to get on Thrive Fantasy. Got to come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this football season. Again, Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports app and esports app for player props. That just sounds like money right there. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on the top tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. You only have to choose 10 out of 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and the under based on how likely it is to hit. Hit the most props and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. Thrive has over 140,000 guaranteed money in prizes for NFL Week 1 and has awarded over $4 million. Thrive's featured a $100,000 guaranteed contest. It's only $20 to enter, and first place takes home $20K. All you gotta do is use that code FFDX. And yeah, this promo this week is if you use the code FFDX, then you're able to get a free promo. Put $50. They match to receive you 100 deposit percent matchup on $100, and you receive 1 free ticket to our Thursday night football $20,000 contest and our NFL Week 1 Sunday $100,000 contest. Let's do it. Come prop up today.
Prop up with Thrive Fantasy, man. And again, this is our game 1 previews, our game part 1 previews, week 1 here. This is going to be a different pace. You're going to hear us going through these games, kind of flying through them. We're not going to be sitting here talking intimately about each one like we did with the Thursday night football. You're going to kind of hear us go kind of run through these rapid fire, because that's how we're going to keep this episode in under an hour. So,
yes, sir.
Greg, starting with the 0-0 Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Buffalo, Ralph Wilson Stadium, to take on the 0-0 Buffalo Bills. 48.5 point over under, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. 6.5 point favorites. The Buffalo Bills are. No injury or weather concerns really in this game. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders is questionable, but questionable to me means he's probably playing because he played in the preseason game 2 weeks ago. Greg, thoughts on this matchup?
I'm taking the under in this game. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover, but I'm taking the Buffalo Bills to win the game. Buffalo, I think, is a top 5 team in the league. I think they start early in getting this division out the way. As far as the Pittsburgh side, though, Big Ben, I think more is a QB2 range. Definitely a great quarterback to have in 2 quarterback leagues. But I wouldn't see him as a dominant quarterback as he was. They threw a lot last year, and he still wasn't as a QB1. So that's if they're going to throw a little less this year, I think the focus is more on Najee Harris as an RB1. Deontay Johnson, I'm a little scared about him. He's going to be shadowed by Trey White. You would think so, or definitely see a lot of work from him. So if you have a probably another wide receiver 1 or 2 with a better matchup. I probably would lean there. Claypool, if he's not getting that attention from White, I think he's a low end wide receiver too. Upside will come definitely with that touchdown. Juju is, the safe PPR floor for him. But he probably has the best matchup with Tyron Johnson banked up as well. On Buffalo side, Josh Allen, you got to start him. QB1, top 10 play, top 5 play even. Diggs, he's a must start. If Emmanuel Sanders is banged up and if he's out, Gabriel Davis is a deep league option. But Beasley is your solid flex option. And, we're not going for those running backs. Josh Allen's the best running back on his team. So it's a committee 50-50. I would definitely go somewhere else with the running backs.
Yeah, for me, I'm taking. I went back and forth on this one over under because 20, like the implied score here is Buffalo 28, Pittsburgh 21. I could still see it hitting the over just slightly. So I'm going to go with the over here. I got Pittsburgh covering, though, the Bills to win this game. For Pittsburgh, I'm really only interested in Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson. I think we got a top 10 week. I think we're going to get a top 10 week here from Najee. I think Deontay just going to get enough volume here. I mean, he did see Trey White last year, saw 7 targets still. Only caught 4 of those, but I think with the volume, he's probably going to lead the Steelers wide receivers in targets. So I feel comfortable with him as a wide receiver too. Claypool's a high upside flex. Juju's a low upside flex, but that's a good point with the matchup there with Tyron Johnson. So definitely something, I guess, from a DFS perspective that you can consider. But I'm not really into Juju at all this much this year and really this week. But for Buffalo, give me Josh Allen, give me Stephon Diggs. I mean, both potential top 5 plays at their positions. And I like Cole Beasley as a wide receiver 3 flex option in PPR leagues.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Let's move on to this next game that is very near and dear to my heart, very interesting. The New York Jets 0-0 travel to Carolina to take on Sam Darnold, Robbie Anderson, and the Carolina Panthers. This game has a 45.5 point total. Carolina Panthers are 5-point favorites. In terms of injuries here, Jamison Crowder is on the COVID list. According to head coach Robert Saleh, has a chance to play, but he could miss this game for the Jets. And then for Carolina, they're starting offensive guard John Miller. He's been ruled out for COVID, so that takes a hit to the interior of what was already a weak Carolina offensive line. So I'm going to take the over here. I think you've got two sneaky good offenses here that can put up some points. I think the Jets cover this 5 points and that Carolina does win this game. As far as the fantasy goes, CMC, not even a question. Sam Darnold, Greg, he's your stream of the week.
Yes,
and
sir.
I concur. He's quarterback 16 for me this week with room for more potentially in a nice matchup against the Jets. I like all 3 wide receivers for the Panthers, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, even rookie Terrace Marshall Jr. For the Jets, Corey Davis is the only must start for me. Elijah Moore is interesting with Jamison Crowder potentially out here. If I'm playing a Jets running back, it's going to be Ty Johnson. I think he leads the backfield in touches. And then Zach Wilson's interesting as a QB, as a QB2 in 2 quarterback leagues, but that's really about it.
Yeah, I'm with you on the game. I got the over, the Jets covering, and the Carolina Panthers winning as well. 2 inexperienced defense, 2 not very good defenses. So I think there will definitely be some points scored in this one. On the Jets side, I'm with you with Zach Wilson. Definitely 2 quarterback league option, but he's going to have some opportunities. The running backs, wouldn't be touching any one of them, but I'm going to agree with you as the Jets, guy here. The Jets got to go with Ty Johnson. If you're going to start someone, Coleman is listed number 1 on the depth chart, but that doesn't really mean anything. Starting Corey Davis for sure as your mid-tier wide receiver too. If Crowder's out, I think it could be Elijah Moore sighting right now. It could be Elijah Moore coming out party for sure. Definitely a guy we might be talking about on that waiver wire. So I think you can not be afraid to start him as a flex option in some deeper leagues. And then on the Carolina side, I'm very confident Sam Darnold, as you talked about yesterday. My stream of the week at the QB position. Must start for CMC. Nothing more to be said. The receivers totally agree as well. Terrace Marshall Jr. Let's go.
Yeah, man. I mean, last year the rookie wide receiver class was a hit. Those are a lot of the guys that we are looking to draft this year. And this year, the rookie wide receiver class seems to be trending in a very similar direction here. So excited about all these guys. Um, let's get into this next game, Greg. The Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Houston NRG Stadium to take on the Houston Texans. This is a 44.5-point total. The Jags are 2.5-point favorites. No major injuries to note in this one. This game's in a dome, so no weather. But Deshaun Watson will not be active. He is non-injury related issues. Whatever. Obviously, we know the legal situation he's got going on, and the trade situation he's got going on. So he will not play. Tyrod Taylor will be the starting quarterback. We've all pretty much known that. Greg, what say you on this game, bro?
I have this classic AFC South game. I'm taking that under. I'm taking the Jags to cover, though, and I'm taking the Jags to win. On the Jags side, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have some opportunities for sure. I mean, Houston's not slated to be a very good team this year. So I think Trevor Lawrence is maybe a desperation stream quarterback. I'm not sure his percentage in Yahoo, but he's definitely a quarterback you could play. James Robinson, I think, is a low end RB1 for me. This is a great matchup for all three of these receivers, DJ Shark, Marvin Jones, and Vishka, especially with, I think, if anything, if ETN's injury probably benefits more is probably Vishka as far as his touches and his utilage, besides James Robinson. So I think all three of those guys are in play, with Shark having the most upside, having some wide receiver 2 upside. On Houston, though, Tyrod, he's a desperation QB2 option, honestly. Never a guy that was going to give you high fantasy volume. May get you some rushing to give you some floor, but that's about it. Philip Lindsay and David Johnson, I'm kind of avoiding both of those. It's probably going to be a committee. Both of those I'm seeing in that RB3 range. Brandon Cooks is probably the only other guy I'm targeting on in this offense. Probably the only guy I'm looking at because he's going to get that volume. You could get some good flex value there, and I'm intrigued for Jordan Akins a little bit. I just want to see what he's about. I mean, he's in this offense now as the one. There's not a lot of tight end. I want to see him as his routes run. Could be a desperation tight end for a lot of people going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Tyrod Taylor does not throw the ball down the field all that much. So Charles Clay was a very successful fantasy tight end, a top 10 guy, tight end 1, playing with Tyrod Taylor back in Buffalo. So Jordan Akins is definitely a guy we were pretty high on last year, relative.
Yeah, when he had to start, he battled a lot with his other tight end in Houston. So
Darren Fells.
Yeah, Darren Ferris. Yeah, but he has his own job now. So
yeah, so I mean, he's definitely intriguing with a team that you would assume would throw the ball a lot. But in terms of the game here, Greg, I'm taking the under, taking Jacksonville to cover, taking Jacksonville to win. For Houston, I'm playing Brandon Cooks. Like you said, I think he's the only real option that you really want. I do, however, think that Philip Lindsay kind of makes sense as an RB3 potentially. This Jags run defense was terrible last year. I mean, we both believe Houston's going to win this game, but if this line was 3.5, 4.5, I probably would take it because Jacksonville is not a good enough team. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is going to be great, I'm sure of it, but I just still don't believe that this team is going to be good enough that they can just walk all over the Houston Texans, which is an actual NFL football team, which Urban Meyer has never really had to play. And so, again, I think that there's enough here where if Philip Lindsay gets double-digit carries that he could make something happen. I'm just talking, again,
could get a lot of, if he gets a lot of checks downs too. Whoever gets going to get some check downs from the running back in this offense.
Yeah, the thing is that's probably going to be David Johnson, but we know Philip Lindsay has that speed, right? He could walk out of this game averaging 9-10 yards a carry, and we're talking about a bad Jacksonville run defense. And if he could get to double digits, the probability that one of those runs goes for 20, 30, 40 yards or more, it increases with every carry he gets. So just something to note. But for Jacksonville, James Robinson should be in for a nice game in this one. Again, this Houston run defense is bad. I think he's honestly an RB1 here this week. Trevor Lawrence, he's a QB1 for me this week. He's only available 80% of Yahoo leagues. Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys I think will always get drafted just because his name is Trevor Lawrence. We've been talking about him for like 4 years. So people are always going to walk out of their fantasy leagues with him. But I think he's a QB1 this week in a matchup, in a good matchup. Plus, he's got those legs, which we always say, give me a quarterback that's mobile, that can run, because that fantasy total is going to be, it's going to be higher than it is if he doesn't have that every week. So, the floor is going to be there on a weekly basis, and that's really what I want from my quarterback is don't bottom out on me, so I can afford spending a late round draft pick on you. But of all the Jags wide receivers, having them, all of them have wide receiver 2 upside, maybe even more. Like you were saying, I think Visca, he did really win out on some of these touches that ETN didn't have because he's, the most versatile of the bunch here. So I think he'll have the most bankable production week to week. But I would be fine playing any one of these guys. If I had to play one, would be Marvin Jones. He's seemed to show good chemistry with Trevor Lawrence throughout the preseason. Granted, we haven't seen DJ Shark because he's been dealing with that finger, but curious to see how this one plays out and which one really becomes the wide receiver 1 for Trevor Lawrence. Let's move on, Greg, to what's up?
Chris Conley revenge game, though. You already know.
Chris Conley revenge
yes, sir.
game.
Yes, sir.
Man, that would be nice if Tyrod Taylor wasn't the one. Let's move on to this next game. This one should be interesting, man. We've got the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Titans. This is a 52-point total. The Titans are 3-point favorites. In terms of injuries, A.J. Brown seems to be managing a knee injury. He didn't practice yesterday. Got in a limited practice today. So he was on a schedule last year where he didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, and he was limited on Friday. So if he does something similar to that, then I'm not really all that concerned. In terms of the game, give me the over here. Give me the Titans to cover, the Titans to win. I want to be all over this game. Give me Tannehill. Give me Kyler Murray, both top 10 quarterbacks this week. Give me A.J. Brown. Give me Julio Jones. Give me DeAndre Hopkins. Give me Derrick Henry. In terms of the Cardinals' tertiary options, I like Chase Edmonds to be an RB2 this week. I think he's shown enough as a pass catcher in the past, and he also has some 20-plus carry games to his name where I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that he is the guy here. We know that Cliff Kingsbury prefers to run through one guy if he can, and Chase Edmonds, I think, will be that guy here. I also like rookie wide receiver Rondale Moore a lot, and I think he's one of the guys that we'll be trying to grab on Monday or Tuesday after a nice performance here on Sunday.
Not in our leagues, though.
No, not in our leagues.
Yeah, because we already have.
Not in any of our leagues. But in terms of what he can do, I think whether it's through jet sweeps, bubble screens, jet passes, there's going to be some touches manufactured for him where that he will have a safe floor on a week-to-week basis. And then the fact that he plays receiver in an explosive offense with Kyler Murray, I think that just gives him a ceiling that a lot of flexes don't really have. And then on top of that, people have been pushing back against Rondale Moore like, oh, well, he's the third wide receiver. But this is a team that runs 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. And you got to imagine, and you got to think about how many times the Cardinals throw a bubble screen. And look at Rondale Moore and what he did in college and what he's good at, which is making plays in space. And so Cliff Kingsbury is going to design a bunch of plays for Rondale Moore, who was just a second-round pick just a few months ago.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have the over. I have the Tennessee Titans covering, but then Tennessee Titans to win. Obviously, if I have the over, I love everyone in this game, both the quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, Tannehill, of course, that running backs, Derrick Henry, Chase Edmonds, you got to love. Even James Conner, I think, has some RB flex value, but Chase Edmonds, I think, has some RB1 upside. The receivers are all of them. I'm with you on Rondale Moore. This man, right away, he should have a coming out party in this one. Has some wide receiver 2 upside. AJ Green did struggle last year to create separation, so I wouldn't be quick to for them to target more at a high rate if AJ Green continues to struggle. And even with Tennessee on as a tight end, I think if you need a desperation tight end play, Anthony Ferguson is there for you. All these matchups are going to be good for each side. Tannehill's going to be dogging all day.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I think AJ Green's in play as well. I went off about Rondale Moore that I failed to mention. I think you could play AJ Green in this one. But yeah, I want as many pieces from this game as I can get.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on to this next game, man. Another interesting one here. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Atlanta to take on the Atlanta Falcons. This is a 47.5-point total. The Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. No weather or injury concerns in this one. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I have the over in this game as well. The Philadelphia Eagles to cover, and I have the Philadelphia Eagles to win the game. This is definitely a game I want a lot of deep pieces in this as well, just like the last game we talked about. I also don't think the Atlanta Falcons is as good as people think. So I think the Eagles surprise some people in covering. Hurts, top 5 play. This is a must-start value right here. He's just going to have so much options in this game. Miles Sanders, high in RB2. I'm intrigued to see Boston Scott's involvement. I think I'm wait and see mode for him, but he could have some, deeper league flex value going down the line. Ertz and Goddard are both in play. As you know, we talked about the Eagles run a lot of 12 personnel. As both tight end ones, I think Goddard definitely has the higher upside. And as the receivers, young receiving core, Devontae Smith, I think is in play for sure. Rager, I think is in the deep flex conversation. But I think Devontae Smith is going to get the targets in this offense with a lot of good secondary, but against a weaker secondary in Atlanta. On the Atlanta side, Matt Ryan, he's a low in QB1 for me. Mike Davis, I think, is a solid RB2 option. I think he's set to get these touches in this offense. He's going to get a lot of touches, but I think he, towards the second half of the year, he's going to be a popular trade candidate for me. So, yeah, I think he does start off well in this game. Calvin Ridley, top 5 wide receiver 1 play, as long with Kyle Pitts, top 5 wide receiver, tight end play. Wide receiver, he plays like one, but yeah, this is about to be a coming out party for Kyle Pitts as well.
Oh yeah, man, I'm all over this game, bro. I'm taking the over, taking Philly to cover, but I'm gonna take Atlanta to win it. I'm like I said, all over it. I think both quarterbacks are in play, especially Jalen Hurts, who I think is in for a big week. I think Matt Ryan will be a top 12 guy as well, with how bad Philadelphia's pass defense is and the amount of points that they should be in this game. Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, both phenomenal plays. Mike Davis should be a safe RB3 flex option there for you. For Philadelphia, outside of the quarterback, I'm really only excited about Devontae Smith. Jalen Hurts Jalen Hurts can have a great game and not a ton of people could benefit from it.
Yep.
So Devontae Smith, he's probably the one guy I'd really want to attach myself to. Although Jalen Rager does make a ton of sense as a deep flex option. Outside of that, you can go Ertz at tight end, even Goddard if you have him. And then Miles Sanders, I think he's in the RB3 flex consideration. Just because, like you mentioned, I want to see how Boston Scott is used. I want to see how rookie running back Kenneth Gainwell is used. I mean, Miles Sanders was quoted as saying that Kenneth Gainwell has better hands than him. Miles Sanders is somebody that struggled with drops. So, I want to see how is he going to be utilized as this 3-down back, or is he going to be this first and second down guy? We have seen Nick Sirianni comes from Indianapolis. We've seen Naheem Hines, how he's been utilized over there. I'm curious to see if they do something similar here. But for that reason, Miles Sanders is an RB3 conversation for me. Moving forward, let's get on to the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Washington to take on the Washington football team. Herb gets his own drop? All right.
Oh, man, yeah, of course. Yeah, he's definitely got his own. He's on the Wall of Fame. He's got to get his own drop.
All right, bet. Okay. But this is a 44.5-point total. The Chargers are 1-point favorites here. In terms of injuries, Austin Eckler popped up on the injury report with the hamstring. He did not practice yesterday, which was Wednesday. As we sit here Thursday, he had his helmet, but he did not really participate, was put down as a limited participant. The Chargers say that they expect him to play. We'll see. I mean, I'm gonna play him if I have him, but it's tough with dealing with midweek downgrades. That's always tough, especially when you're dealing with the soft tissue. Just had Edwin Poros on there the other day, and he was kind of talking about that. I mean, you're kind of dead in the water at this point. So we'll see how it goes if he can trend up and get any kind of participation in practice. But it's definitely scary if you have him. Curtis Samuel on the Washington side seemed to aggravate a groin injury that kept him out for most of the summer and the spring, and so he was a DNP today after leaving practice early yesterday. In terms of the game here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Chargers to cover the 1-point spread because it's basically a pick 'em. So I'm taking them to win the game here. Again, this game, I took the under here, so I'm not really in love with Herbert unless I have a better option. For example, I'm in a league where I have Jalen Hurts, so I'm playing Jalen Hurts over Justin Herbert. Keelan Allen should be fine with the amount of volume that he'll see. Again, like I said, if Eckler plays, I'm going to play him. If he doesn't play, I'm probably staying away from this backfield. We don't really know who the RB2 is with this new coaching staff, and the matchup is not great here, so not really trying to go there. But for Washington, it feels like almost like last year all over again. Maybe it's just specifically the matchup, but give me Antonio Gibson, give me Terry McLaurin, give me Logan Thomas.
Yes, sir. I'm going to take the over in this one. I'm going to take the Chargers to cover and Chargers to win. On the Chargers side, Herbert, I agree with you. He's a low in QB1 play for me, maybe definitely top 15. But he's still gonna have a good day. But if you definitely have a better matchup, like Tom Brady, stuff like that, Aaron Rodgers, the top guys are gonna be higher than him. Washington's a top 10 defense, so look for Herbert though to get you that safe flow with his legs because Washington will definitely be pressuring him. Eckler, I'm with you on that. If he's playing, you got to play him. If he's not playing, I'm not looking to these running backs. There was plenty of opportunity for them to prove themselves last year, and they didn't do anything. So I'm avoiding those guys, except in super deep leagues. Keenan Allen, you're definitely starting, and Jared Cook. I think you can play him as a tight end that he can give you some tight end one upside. Herbert, I think will look for him. And on the Washington side, Fitz, he's a 2 QB league option. And it's just all about AG. The breakout season continues. It's just all one, breakout for him. He's going to keep revving up, and his cap there is no cap for him. And J.D. McKissick, you're playing for him as a PPR play. Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas, start them up.
Yes, sir. Forgot to mention, you might want to keep an eye on Dyami Brown, rookie wide receiver out of North Carolina. He is next up. Well, he's been working as the opposite wide receiver 2, opposite of Terry McLaurin with Curtis Samuel out. Curtis Samuel is probably going to be out, and it could be a 1 to 2 to 3 week injury here for Curtis Samuel. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. And Dyami Brown has some deep speed, and he could be a down the field option for this for this Washington football offense. Getting ahead of myself, though, moving on to San Francisco, we've got the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. This is a 45.5 point total. The San Francisco 49ers are 7.5 point favorites. In terms of injuries, DeAndre Swift is not on the injury report for San Francisco. There's nothing crazy. Trey Lance is questionable with the finger, but Jimmy G's already been dubbed the starting quarterback, at least to start the year. So that's really a moot point unless you were concerned about Trey Lance capping some of Jimmy G's upside with some 2 quarterback action by the Niners here. But Greg, where are you going with this game?
I'm taking the over. I'm taking the Detroit Lions to cover, and I'm taking the 49ers to win though. On the 49ers side, Jimmy G, I think he's a solid option in 2 QB leagues. This Detroit defense is not very good. I think they should control the pace though with the running back. So Raheem Morse is I think a solid RB2 option. Sermon, I'm very intrigued to see his utilage and his snap share. I think is definitely a stash right now that's going to rev up as towards at the end of the year. Ayuk and Debo Samuel are great plays. I think they have great matchups. Detroit secondary got eaten up last year. Jeff Okuda's second year, but he still might struggle. So definitely start Ayuk and Debo Samuel and George Kittle, top 5 tight end play. You have to start him up. On the Detroit side, it's really all about Swift and TJ Hawkinson. As far as I'm really intrigued to see how the receivers handle the snaps. I mean, I'm on the Amon-Ra St. Brown train. If I had to choose one, I think he might be a name we talk about on the waiver wire episode. Definitely in the wait and see mode for that. But I'm with speculating adding him because he did impress in the preseason. And yeah, Swift just needs to, this man has been playing with my heart all off season, all up to now. I just need him to play. Coach Deuce Staley, said he doesn't know what managing workload means. So I'm with that. If he's not a liar, he's got yet to prove himself. So I'm with starting DeAndre Swift confidently as your RB2.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the under here. I'm going to take San Fran to cover, San Fran to win. I don't think Detroit is going to be able to keep it competitive enough to get to that 45.5. For Detroit side, I'm playing TJ Hawkinson, playing DeAndre Swift. I'm definitely intrigued by Amon-Ra St. Brown. Going to keep my eye on him, see how he does. Also, have to mention my guy Quintez Cephas. Got to keep an eye out on him
yes, sir.
as well. I'm just holding on to that hope, Quintez, that you can do it. But for San Fran, I think Raheem Mostert is a smash play here against Detroit. This was not a good Detroit run defense last year. We always know the defenses are behind to start the year. So I think he's a smash play here. Curious to see, what Trey Sermon's usage is like. So on also continuing on the San Fran side, Ayuk, Kittle, great spots here. I think Debo is that safe flex option this week. But with all that being considered, I think Jimmy G is a viable QB2 option this week. If we're willing to play all of the pieces around him, I think you could stream Jimmy G this week and you could definitely do worse. Let's move on to this next matchup, Greg, and that's the Seattle Seahawks traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Indianapolis Colts. This is a 48.5 point total. The Colts here the Seattle Seahawks are 2.5 point favorites here on the road. In terms of injuries, Paris Campbell for the Colts popped up with an Achilles injury. Seems like he was just maybe getting treatment. He was limited in practice. Was a full participant today. Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson both seem like they're ready to go. And Seattle was good for the most part. In terms of the game here, I'm going to take the over. Going to take Indianapolis to cover. Going to take Indianapolis to win this game here. I think JT eats in this game. They've rested him all preseason so that they could feed him in a game here like this. Wentz is my stream of the week. I think he comes through in a nice matchup against Seattle. Michael Pittman is in all of my lineups with what should be a very nice target total. And then for the Seattle side, they're in a tougher matchup than I think people want to admit. I mean, Indianapolis was a very good defense last year. But obviously I'm not going to shy away from their pieces. Russ is in play as a low-end QB1. DK Metcalf is a low-end wide receiver 1, and Tyler Lockett as a low-end wide receiver 2. But obviously we know what their ceilings can be, so you're never going to bench these guys. Chris Carson should see enough volume to sneak into RB1 territory here. But other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, have the under here, have the Colts covering though, and have the Colts winning. This is going to be a very competitive game. I think probably one of the games of the weekend. But on Seattle side, Russ, you're starting him as a low-end QB1. I think he's definitely going against a top 10 defense. Chris Carson, though, higher in RB2 for me. They're going to utilize these weapons as far as DK and Tyler Lockett. Will finish in the top 30, I think, always pretty much. Their upside is probably a little capped. The Colts secondary is impressive, but yeah, you're not benching these two guys. I'm interested to see how Gerald Everett is used. Russ does like to use his tight end, especially in the red zone. So we'll see how maybe he can get some touchdowns down there. On the Colts side, Carson Wentz, definitely a great play. I think it's top 15 value. JT all the way. Just keep running him 20 carries. Hope he gets 5 receptions, gets all that work that he deserves, and that that momentum that he carried from last season. Naeem Hines, I think, has some flex value in some deeper leagues. And Michael Pittman's season, this is the coming out party for him as far as the second-year receivers. We love those rookie receivers, but I love those second-year receivers even more. So, yeah, I think he gets a top 20 week. The changing of the guard from T.Y. to Michael Pittman and also Paris Campbell, I think, is in play here. Seattle doesn't have a very good secondary. I think both those guys are in play. With Michael Pittman with great upside, and Jack Doyle, I think he's a good tight end 2 option.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with T.Y. Hilton being out for the year, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, both phenomenal options. I think Paris Campbell is obviously going to be that PPR option, working in the shorter area of the field, but he has a tremendous ability as a yak guy. So definitely excited to see what happens. Moving on to the final game we're covering. All these games, have failed to mention this. I'm getting back into the zone here, but Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, all these games are. So, moving on to the final game we're covering today, the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a 48-point total here. The Vikings are 3.5-point favorites. In terms of injuries, since he's missing their starting cornerback, Trey Waynes, he's out with the hamstring. Minnesota's okay for the most part. Greg, where are you going with this game?
I'm taking the over, but I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals to cover, and I'm gonna take the Bengals to win. This is the upset of, I think, the week. I think Minnesota struggles a bit, and Bengals keep improving what they can do. On the Minnesota side, Kirk Cousins, I think, is a top 15 play. I think the matchup is good. Cincinnati's still defense is a little shaky, so I think he has a good day. Streamable quarterback for sure. Dalvin Cook is an RB1 bona fide. Jefferson and Thielen should both eat with wide receiver 1 upside from each of those guys. Definitely in the wait and see mode for the tight ends. I know Irv Smith Jr. was a popular breakout candidate for a lot of tight ends. They have Tyler Conklin and Chris Herndon on the roster, but these 2 guys probably should eat each other's value. So I'm definitely wait and see mode for them. On the Bengals side, Joe Burrow, I like him as a play against his Minnesota secondary. Young. Got it getting better, but I think Joe Burrow is a good play. Joe Mixon, I love him. I think it's a great spot for him. He's one of the top RBs in touches and opportunity share before getting injured last season with Joe Burrow. So I think you have to start Joe Mixon confidently. And Higgins and Boyd, I'm starting those 2 guys. Patrick Peterson is in the secondary now, so he's definitely gonna take some chances away from Higgins and or Chase. I think Boyd is probably the safest option because he's going to get the majority of the slot snaps. But in Higgins, I'm starting as well. Jamar Chase did struggle in the preseason, so I'm not going to pull the trigger on him just yet.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over here. Going to take Cincy to cover because Joey covers. And,
yes, sir.
But I'm going to take Minnesota to win this game. But because, it's 3.5 here, so I'm going to, take Minnesota to win this game. But on the Minnesota side, I think Jefferson is a smash play this week. Adam Thielen, also a great play here, like you said. Dalvin Cook will be doing Dalvin Cook things. I think took the words right out of my mouth. Kirk Cousins, top 15 option, viable streaming option this week for sure. On the Cincy side, Joe Mixon will either prove a lot of people right or he'll prove a lot of people wrong. The most polarizing player in fantasy. I'm really just kidding. It's
he just needs to stay on the field, man. That's all he needs to do, just stay on the field.
Stay on the field, get the ball, get third down work, and then we're good. But I'm just kidding, y'all. This 1 week, we're not going to overreact to whatever happens in this game. But I think he's a very, very strong play this week against a Minnesota team that struggled against the run last year. I'm not really all that into Joe Burrow. I've got him outside my top 15 for the week. His first game coming off the ACL tear, so I expect him to probably lean on Tyler Boyd a little bit more in that short passing game. Higgins is probably a lower end wide receiver 2 for me, but he's always got that touchdown upside, big, strong dude. And I'm with you on staying away from Jamar Chase, just for now.
Yeah, just for now. Learn to catch a ball. And then we good.
Yeah, I mean, learn to catch the NFL ball, which apparently Pro Football Talk misquoted him and he was pretty upset about that
Mm.
because I guess he was asked about the difference between the balls. And whatever. I don't know. Either way, tomorrow, make sure you're here with us. We'll be breaking down the remaining 6 games. We'll be giving out our Thursday night takeaways, starts of the week, and everyone's favorite game except mine, Get Money. I say that because I lost to Greg last year almost every week. But we will play it again.
Yes, sir.
This
We're here.
time-
We're back. Get money.
This time I'm coming for revenge.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Have a good one. Peace.
Yeah.